Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Wow, the year of the horse. If I could have picked an animal, it definitely would have been that. So this is great on many levels. As you're probably going through this opening, this forward movement, this rapid nature. Although when I say that, it doesn't feel like it's rapid. It feels very much at ease. It's like the coming out of the real version of us is what I feel like we're sort of embarking on here. And in order for that to happen, the perception has to shift with regards to what is the meaning that this new butterfly out of the cocoon version is giving to everything, and to decrease the connection between the past events and the meaning that we're giving to it in the now, because that is directly related to the power that we're bringing into the now and that we have access to. The power being access that moves through us, but actually moves out into the world. And so there's no complexity to this. It's actually the easiest way to live. It's just that we have to wake up to the easiest way to live, because there is something within us. I don't know if it's our psyche or if it's past generations, or that's not my area of connection. But there is something within us that has caused us to feel as though the future that we want and desire is more dangerous than the future that we currently hold, even though we might not like that future. And so even though we're moving towards our desires, the question becomes, what is that part of you that is still not moving towards your desires? And that is, there's no lack within you because you're source. It is a state of allowing. And so I don't even want to use disallowing, because there's no such thing. It is a lowering of the allowing. And a lot of times when something's brand new, that's what we do. We ease into it, and we can say this is a function of frequency. And frequency is something that you're constantly moving around into different frequencies. But what determines the outside physical nature of your world is the stabilization that you can hold within the frequency, because that becomes a dominant effect, and you become the creator within that specific frequency. And we see this all around us, because we see, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and we talked about kind of the dark side of things. And there are a lot of people, you have the Epstein files that have come out, and, you see a lot of people who you're like, well, they're not really, they are the light, but somehow they've gotten into a state where they're not allowing the light. And so I think there is a fear around either being around people like that or being affected by people like that. And so the stability comes from seeing that the fear is the illusion, and that we are our own sovereign being. And the only thing that can come in is to what we agree to. And this is a really good thing, because this takes us to the conversation of money, because money is a safety thing. Well, when you talk about darkness, and people going out and kind of living in the dark world, well, they can only get access to you based on your agreement. Now, you're not agreeing directly, you're agreeing energetically. And how you agree energetically is you stay in a state of creation, which is light, and thereby that becomes your agreement. It's not like a agreement like in the language where you go, okay, well, I'm going to do XYZ. No, you're going to do XYZ, which is a function of your past, because you wouldn't know how to do XYZ if you weren't to a certain degree, bringing your past into the now, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an energetic agreement is right now. And so my agreement, for example, is I am here fully with you right now. Now, I've had some things go on in my life that are going on in the background that I can feel within me now that are lowering the amount of allowing from 100% to about 98. Now, I love being here 100, and I can feel that 100. And when I feel that, it is absolute bliss and joy. And I can also feel how I could go out and do more, or I could, sit in meditation, or I could sort of try and make myself get rid of, if you will, that 2%. Or I could be in agreement with that 2% and say that's perfect how it is. Because it doesn't really matter what frequency I'm on. For this purpose, it matters, am I somewhat matching to your frequency and you're matching to my frequency? And your frequency is going to change and alter. A lot of it is going to be what's going on in the world. We're having different conversations depending on where we are in the world and what's going on. So seeing it as a function of being perfect is what allows it to go back to 100, but I won't know it's back at 100 until I look back and I can see that it has been that way, and that will be a feeling in my body. And so how does this all relate to money? Well, abundance is all a state of allowing. We can feel that in relationships. You're trying to love someone as much as you can, which it doesn't work that way, but let's say for the conversation, and you're like, why won't you allow me to love you? You feel like people don't have the capacity for it or something. Well, in reality, it's just you, that part of you that is being expressed through them. But let's just say because we kind of have that feeling. So same thing with money, in that you're in agreement and you're allowing a certain amount of money to come in. I see this all the time because people are like, how do I make more money? Well, okay, you've agreed to not know how to make more money when you say that, because otherwise it wouldn't be a question unless you agreed to it. There is no how to make more money. Money is abundance. So that would say that you could replace that with, how do I love more? Okay, well, how do you love more? It's really easy to love when we aren't ourselves performing. And that's actually what keeps money away from us as well. There is a performative nature that we take on, and we call it overthinking. Overthinking is one of the big blocks with money, because we're trying to figure out how to get more money, and all we're doing is we are blocking money. Now, most people know this on a certain level. They just actually don't know how to get beyond it. So it's like standing on one side of the river going, I know I need to swim across the river, but how's that going to happen? So the performative aspect that comes up in us, which has been stabilized within our frequency to make us feel productive and efficient and like we're actually moving forward. We may be moving forward in the 3D as far as achievements, but we're also moving forward when it comes to swapping our energy. And so when you are in source, which is you, and you are operating in the world and you are magnetizing in money or love or any type of abundance, then you're not actually spending energy. You're transmuting energy, but that feeling doesn't feel like you need to go to sleep or you need to figure out a new way. That actually, and some people call it flow. And what happens is people can feel flow in certain areas of their life, and then they don't feel flow in others. And they have convinced themselves, which is the same thing as agreement, that they can feel flow when they're teaching yoga, but they can't feel flow with money because of XYZ reasons. They don't understand it. They've never been good with money. They feel controlled by money. Money does bad things in the world. There's something there. So what they're in agreement with, it actually has nothing to do with money. What they're in agreement with is how they treat money, or what they believe about money. That's where the agreement is, and that's where it ends. So you're only in a relationship with you. That's it. And money is just coming to you based on your state of allowing, which is a function of the relationship that you have with it, right? So going back to this performative thing, all is infinite until it becomes finite. And when it becomes finite, then you cease to exist. So when something is finite, then we've suddenly brought it back into the 3D world, or the matrix, whatever you want to call it. And what happens then is it gets, it has comparison, it has time, it has judgment, it has measurement, it has all these things related to it. Now, you may say, well, investing. Okay, great. Elizabeth, you talk about investing. That is a 3D concept, right? That's where you are actually taking the energy of money and you are physically expanding it. Well, we're supposed to do it that way. So don't ever think that I'm saying we're bringing it back into the 3D world with a diminishing effect. The only diminishing effect is if you are being controlled by the 3D world. So when you bring it back in, and then it's getting swapped. So an example would be you get stuck in time because time is putting pressure on you. It's putting pressure on you to get the things done that you need to do today. I feel this when I get ready to travel, because I'm going to New York in a few days. I feel the pressure of, I haven't packed my suitcase yet. And even if I do pack my suitcase, I'm probably going to unpack it anyways. And so I get caught up in this. It's like a trap. It's like a vice grip of time. And I see myself in it, and then I become performative. And then what happens is I go, I don't have time to pack. Or even I can feel myself dragging it out, like, oh, let me try this on and let me try that off. Try this on. When in fact, if I had to go to the airport in an hour, I'd have that thing done, and it wouldn't be like it is. So I'm creating this whole scenario around it because I'm stuck in overthinking, because I have a belief about myself that I get a level of anxiety before travel, and that I don't want to forget something, and I get caught up in time. Now, it's okay, because we have to have areas of contrast where we learn. Again, going back to the 98 versus 100%. Am I looking at myself during these times? Am I noticing it? Or am I just right here where I feel all the pressure in my solar plex? Is that what it is? Solar plex? Like, it feels like it's like right below my diaphragm. That is a totally different scenario, because then I am the emotion, and the self-expression of me becomes the emotion, versus I am the observer. And the observer actually doesn't have anything to do other than observe it. And the observer has a trueness to it when the observer doesn't get pulled back in. And so what happens is this becomes a practice, and it becomes a practice for you to open up that state of allowing in all areas of your life. And as we are here to expand into greater consciousness and move towards one, part of that journey and moving towards one is that you will stop seeing things as being separate. So I will stop seeing the things that I'm doing now for work and packing my suitcase as being separate, because if I didn't see them as separate right now, then they wouldn't have a different qualification on them in terms of importance or time. Now, you say, well, okay, we need these qualifications in order to operate in the 3D world among humans. We can utilize them as a function of, let me use this structure, no different than I'm going to pick this pen up and I'm going to write with it. But I don't have a relationship to this pen. This pen doesn't have meaning about me. So then what I do is I write with it and I put the pen down. And if the pen is not here and it's somewhere else in the house, I don't blame the pen for not being here when I need it. Now, money neutrality, if we were able to do that same concept with the pen, then what would happen is we would be in a greater state of allowing with money. And so that in itself becomes the factor that the momentum carries us further and further towards money neutrality, because we would be in a higher state of allowing, more money would come to us. And until we start to feel that panic and pull it back down, then we would continue to rise. And this is what's happening, like just when I started the beginning, the fire horse. So what's happening is that people are feeling this forward momentum, and people are feeling this, but it's really going to be a process of, you may feel that it's going fast, but where are you feeling it? Are you feeling that in your body, and that becomes, it's going fast within the bounds of the structure that's been placed upon you in this world? Or is it momentum in terms of boundless? Now, creating boundless within bounds, this is something that I've been working on myself, along with I have people in my life who I work closely with on concepts like this. And I have always been this type of person, and maybe you are too, where I've sort of bucked the system and bucked the rules. I'm like, I want freedom. I want to feel boundless. Well, requiring that in all areas of your life actually makes you bound, because then you're not able to fully utilize the physical world. And so learning how to operate boundless within bounds becomes the way that you can diminish the gap when it comes to walking across the bridge. So if we see the 3D as bounds and we see the universal world as boundless, then what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually take the boundless, which would be the concept, that would be the idea coming through us, and then we're trying to take it back across the bridge and put it into bounds. Now, we want to do that in a way that we don't feel controlled, because then we're stuck over here, right? Then we can't create, we can't think, and then what happens is we try and get out of that. We're like a hamster in a wheel, and then it starts to make us feel exhausted. So with regards to money, we have this idea that if money were boundless for us, meaning if we had all that we wanted, then suddenly we would just be able to we'd be the hamster that breaks out of the wheel. Well, that's actually already available for you. It's already here. But what happens is you get a little taste of that. And then what happens is you cramp up and you don't know how to deal with that, right? And so if you knew that the work becomes you dealing with the way that you're cramping up, rather than the work being about money, because what happens is it comes in, we make meaning of that because we've suddenly got more money, and that means we're doing better, we're more productive, and we're more successful. People love us more. Could mean that. I mean, it could also mean like a lot of times money scares people to death, and they just, who's everybody going to think if they have money? So it really depends on which end of the spectrum. But then what happens is you become in a relationship with that. And so what you're really doing is you're really learning how to shorten the bridge, how to actually be able to go from the universal world back into the 3D. And then when you are ready, meaning when your agreement shifts and you're not in overthinking, then what happens is you choose to place your attention on something else and you go back into the universal world. Now, I said earlier in this, I've got a lot of things going on in the background. So that 2% of me, that is stuck in the 3D world. Now that's okay, because when we're stuck in the 3D world that's where the contrast lives. Source isn't in contrast. Source is certainty. Source can't be uncertain, because it would take lack to be uncertain. So what happens is I'm over here, but the moment that I start to see that is just as good enough, and that's not even a word, that is, I'll say that's enough, or it's just as good, is the moment that I actually don't I'm not taken down the river of my emotions, because our emotions are what actually keep us stuck in the 3D world and keep us feeling like we're controlled. So I see that I'm feeling the emotions, like I'm here, I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that they're in my body. And there could be a part of me that's like, damn, Elizabeth, you know, you just, why don't you just free yourself up and this would be so much easier? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. If it did work like that, then you would just be sitting under a tree for 88 years and then you would die and you'd be fine. But that's not why you came here, nor is nor is that what you want. You love looking back on the contrast and seeing all the lessons and how you grew and all the fun you had. And the reason you love looking back on it is because you don't feel time when you look back on it. You don't feel that, you know, and this is the same with investing. You don't feel that, oh, I should have bought that stock on a Friday instead of a Wednesday. You're just looking back and going, holy shit, I'm so glad I bought Google during that time, because now look where I am. And so all of this is playing with timelines. You can play with timelines whenever you get outside of time. And getting outside of time can mean one thing in the 3D, and it means something different in the universal world, as this typically happens, where we want the language to cross over, and sometimes it does, but that's also why it hangs in the balance as a concept for us, because the language actually won't take it deeper for us. The language is born out of the 3D world, and we're trying to describe something that is energy, but the energy is a function of the relationship of the emotion and the story and the experience. Therefore, that language doesn't fully apply anymore. Now, we are getting to a point where we are speaking energy more and more. This is one of the things that, the whole foundation of the spiritual investor is that you're no longer getting money, you're inviting money in. Well, how do you invite money in? Well, that's a language in itself. And so the more that you apply the concepts within the spiritual investor, the more you apply it, and it goes to many different money areas of your life. It's a holistic system, so you've got 5 different points, and you just keep going around in the circle on them. The more you apply that, what happens is the bridge diminishes, and so momentum picks up in your life, and then you really, really are more of where you want to be in the year of the horse. And then once you start to see that, what happens is it radiates out, because energy is not contained. You can't put energy on a shelf. It radiates out. So you start with money as your holistic system. And then what you see is, oh no, your relationships get better. Oh no, you feel happier more of the time because you're not stressed about money. You are breaking generational trauma patterns with money. You're doing all these things. And so what happens is we go back to your frequency rises, but instead of just rising and then, one day at 3:00 you leave a yoga class and you feel in flow. No, what's happening is there is a stabilization to that. And the stabilization occurs because the SI method actually contains both the universal principles and it contains the action items in the 3D world, because it's all actually one system. Even comparing it as different is not really different. The only reason is because we are in a state, and I don't think that we'll be in the state in the future. We're still in a state where there's an advantage to comparatively learn so that we can see the contrast in one. So basically, we can see the light and the dark, because within the dark is how you actually find the light. And so all this goes back to everything goes back to our own fundamental concepts of we are source, and then we are bringing that into the 3D world as a function of allowing, and that we are on a journey to increase our allowing, if you will, which even saying that, you see how I'm saying it doesn't even make sense because there's no measurement to it. It's you can feel the abundance come in, and you are doing more in the world as your state of allowing is higher, because you are available. You're available to hold space for people. You're available to influence people. You're available to love. You're available for all of these things, which brings in more and more of what you want. So all of this to say that the moment that we realize that we are in the year of the horse, but that if we really, if we truly want to play in the year of the horse, then, and I'm saying ride the coattails of what's energetically out there, then we would also be in agreement to drop the aspects of ourselves that we are so convinced is going to do this time period better. Because the version of you that is convinced that you're going to do this time period better is that same version of me that I'm saying, the 2%. The moment that you need to do something better is the moment you go into your thinking about it. And the moment you go into your thinking about it, you have actually slowed the momentum down. So I'm going to leave that here. I think that this one is definitely, I feel like, as always, I feel like you'll get something from this. This one's definitely a little bit more in the clouds, I'll say, and I like to do these. I also like to do ones where we talk more about the market and investing and things like that. We are hosting our very, very first private event, which I'm super excited about. And we're hosting that in California in April. I haven't talked about it much, but we do have tickets available on thespiritualinvestor.com. So if you really, really want to get into the momentum and you want to meet in person in a beautiful location with people who are basically being hand selected for this, it's going to be life shifting. It's going to be, I think, even an elevated version of the mastermind, because we'll be there in person with the yoga and the beautiful food and it'll be a wonderful environment. I went to college in San Luis Obispo, so that's why I chose it. It's very special to my heart, so that's why I chose it as the place to have my very first in-person event, which, I'm grateful because people have been asking for it for years. And so now we've got some people, like the perfect people, who are really excited about it. So if you're interested in that, just go to thespiritualinvestor.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. All right. So much love to you. Thank you for being here and co-creating this with me.